All right, guys, Jason up, New 80s Revolution. We are back down here, sitting in front of the Zenith System 3. We just popped in January, I don't have the envelope down here, January 14th, 1984. We just popped it in. And if you can see, this is basically how I have cataloged my discs, right? Really simple. CW, Championship Wrestling, 1784. In the system now is CW 11484. The next episode of Championship Wrestling in January. This, as you can see, our opening. This is how the show actually started, which was kind of strange. Again, you could see that something was changing. The show opened with an interview with Hogan and Backlund, because this week is the week that Hulk Hogan and Bob Backlund team up. Right? Last week, Hogan was brought out. If you notice, the Hulkster's wearing a yellow shirt. Last week he wore a red. This week he's got the yellow American-made t-shirt on. He made his debut. He made his re-debut in the WWF last week. The torch is being passed. You can smell something brewing. This week, Backlund and Hogan team up to take on, a formidable duo, Mr. Fuji and Tiger Chung-Lee. Great match, actually. Great pairing, right? You don't want them to go against the Samoans yet, because with Fuji and Tiger Chung-Lee, they can get in a little offense, and Hulk can rally back, and of course, obviously, defeat the bad guys. But let's get it started. Let's jump right into Championship Wrestling, January 14th, 1984.
Wrestling with the Past, hosted by Jason Nupp. Join Jason as he reviews classic wrestling footage from the golden era of the WWF, when our biggest childhood fear was anyone from the dreaded Heenan family capturing the precious World Wrestling Federation gold from our red and yellow savior, Hulk Hogan. There were rowdy pipers, Snukas who superflied, animals with green tongues, Russian Volkovs, Sheiks of iron, a demolition that could axe and smash things to bits. It was a glorious time to be alive. It was a time to rock and wrestle, when a video coliseum fulfilled our childhood world with excitement and wonder. And now, the host of Wrestling with the Past, give it up for Mr. Jason Nupp.
All right, here we go. I did just watch this about 3 months ago, but I forgot already that the opening match of Championship Wrestling, January 14th, 1984, is indeed Hulk Hogan and Bob Backlund taking on Tiger Chung-Lee and Mr. Fuji. They throw right to the main event. They get the show started right off the bat. The only thing missing from this match is Howard Finkel, right? Joe McHugh still has a few more weeks, or maybe even a month or so, of still hosting or announcing WWF Championship Wrestling, and then he is completely phased out. Howard Finkel at this point is doing MSG shows, so there is a Howard Finkel. Philly has a very strange ring announcing situation going on there. They were using Gary Michael Capetta for a little bit, but Philly did the weirdest thing. And when we do the Philly is a mess when it comes to the house shows. They have the worst announce team. They have Gorilla Monsoon, but they have who the heck do they have? I don't know. We'll get to it. But they have Cal Rudman involved, and he is just the absolute worst. We'll get to him. But they let the Philadelphia 76ers announcer, their PA announcer, announce WWF, and he is horrible. I'm sure his shtick worked for the Philadelphia 76ers when he was announcing their players and, announcing a big score, but it does not work as a wrestling ring announcer. He is horrible. Dave Zinkoff is his name. David Zinkoff. Dreadful. And I'm sure the Philly people are going to be like, no, Zinkoff is a legend. Yeah, he's probably a legend basketball announcer. Basketball PA announcer. Not a color guy. Not a commentator. PA announcer. But as a ring announcer in wrestling, horrid. You'll see. Anyway, let's get back to the match. The main event is first. Hogan and Backlund, future tag team champions, who knows, taking on Iron Sheik and Tiger Chung-Lee. All right, as expected, Hogan and Bob Backlund get the Duke. Interesting match. In the beginning, Hogan did a little chain wrestling. I think Hogan, depending on who he took on, he could wrestle to a degree. If you see some of his matches in Japan, it is not American Hulk Hogan. It is not WWF Hulk Hogan. It's Japan Hulk Hogan. And the matches are great. They're phenomenal. Hogan versus Stan Hansen, insane. Beautiful match. And so, Hogan hasn't quite been WWF-ized yet. So as he's got the arm, the arm bar and the wrist lock and the go behind and he's got a little the scientific stuff going on, as they would say. And that was fun to watch. And then you get Backlund doing his thing. Backlund is the face in peril, as they say. Gets beat up, double team, makes the hot tag to the Hulk, and then Hogan comes in, and then we start to see a lot of Hogan moves. We get the hair pull punch, the hair grab punch that Hogan's famous for. We get the whip into the turnbuckle, and then the running clothesline to follow it in. Back in early '84, Hogan had almost like a dual finisher. He would hit the arm, the elbow drop, and then follow that up with the leg drop. So it was often elbow drop, leg drop. It morphed into punches, big boot, leg drop. But at first he was hitting the elbow drop. In fact, he had before he went to the big boot leg drop, he would whip a guy into the ropes, and then he'd come running off the other side, and he would do kind of like this, almost like this sort of weird running forearm smash. It wasn't a clothesline. I don't know. He would kind of hit you on the top of your head, and that I assume morphed into the big boot. But fun to see it growing. It's happening. It is happening. It's here. WWF 1984. We are officially 2 weeks away from the birth of Hulkamania. This I wouldn't say is the birth of Hulkamania yet. This is we're in labor, right? Mrs. Hulkamania is in labor right now. Let's go to the next match. All right, guys. Next up is a Sergeant Slaughter matchup. Still bad guy Sergeant Slaughter, but about a month away from becoming good guy Sergeant Slaughter. Last year, shortly, I would say October, November of '83, Sergeant Slaughter's manager, the Grand Wizard, died, and died suddenly. Ernie Roth, the Grand Wizard, was on WWF TV, the week before his death, and from what I've read, it was a heart attack. And very sad because what they would do is Sergeant Slaughter would give Ernie Roth his hat, and Ernie Roth would hold it out, and Slaughter would put his whistle in there and his riding crop or whatever. He would put it in there, and then they would salute. And Vince McMahon would always make fun of Ernie Roth's weak salute. What a pathetic salute, he would say. Well, then when Grand Wizard died, Sergeant Slaughter came out that week, and very quietly, without anybody commenting, Sergeant Slaughter laid all of his stuff in the hat and put the hat in the corner and saluted the corner. And, that was heavy. I think that, I think the Grand Wizard was close with a lot of the wrestlers. Don Morocco, I believe, is the Grand Wizard's child's godfather. I believe. So anyway, it was almost like the heel turn or the heel run was ending. If your manager dies and you salute the corner in a show of kindness, your heart is growing, right? So we're about to see the beginning of one of the most legendary feuds in the WWF of all time, Sergeant Slaughter versus the Iron Sheik. It's not happening yet, but it does happen on an episode of Championship Wrestling, and we're going to see how that feud got started, you and I. But right now we've got Sergeant Slaughter taking on Mike Dorsett. Here, Slaughter is given the business, if you will, to referee Gilberto Roman. He's telling him that his waist is too big, so he's giving it to old Gilberto. And that's that. So a couple more weeks, and we're going to have a Slaughter face turn. We'll watch that together. I'm going to go check this match out. All right, as expected, Sergeant Slaughter ends it with the Cobra Clutch, basically the move that he used his whole career. Never got away from the Cobra Clutch. I always thought it was cool that it was called the Cobra Clutch, and then Sergeant Slaughter went on to work with G.I. Joe, where the bad guy is Cobra, right? This isn't a G.I. Joe time right now. Sergeant Slaughter was calling the Cobra Clutch way back in 80 and 81. So I don't know if it meant something else. Isn't the Cobra on one of the military flags? I don't know. I just thought it was cool that he becomes G.I. Joe. Their main bad guy is Cobra, and forever Sergeant Slaughter was using the Cobra Clutch. It's like he was predicting the future, right? Anyway, a sound victory for Sergeant Slaughter. A little bit of offense by Mike Dorsett, not much. Sergeant Slaughter always struck me as one of those really rough bad guys when it came to the enhancement workers. He seemed to really toss them around the ring a lot. Him and the Samoans were particularly rough. It seemed, I don't know, but that's their job, is to make me think that it's too rough. But anyway, Sergeant Slaughter gets the Duke. The bad guy days of the Sarge are almost over, and he becomes one of the faces of the WWF for a little while, and then one of the faces of G.I. Joe and the AWA for a while, and then back to the WWF for a weird heel turn, which, as a kid watching it in 90, right, 90, 91, you thought, oh my God, Sergeant Slaughter's a bad guy. But if you just go back, you realize Sergeant Slaughter was a bad guy his whole career, right? His face run was only from 84 to I don't know, he didn't even wrestle, in 87. Maybe some work in the AWA as a good guy, but then he was gone, and he was doing the G.I. Joe thing, so really he was only a good guy for a short period of time in his career. And so when he comes back as a bad guy and challenges Hogan and the whole Iraqi thing, everybody's blown away that Sergeant Slaughter's a bad guy when he was always a bad guy. Let's check out the next match. All right, here's another example of those localized, the local market interviews in front of the ring. I assume either pre-card or post-card, right? They would get all together and, all right, guys, we got to do the interviews. Where are we talking about? Oh, okay, L.A., all right, cool. The Olympic Auditorium, L.A., tonight at 8 p.m. So finally we get to stop hearing about this battle royal. And they're interviewing currently the participants of the battle royal. When I stopped it, you can see Ivan Putski looking at Mean Gene lovingly. It's just because Mean Gene reminded Putski that there's a $30,000 first prize in the battle royal. So Putski is pretty excited that he's got a shot at 30 grand. Let's see how the rest of this card shapes out. All right, next match we've got the probably the most popular wrestler in the WWF at this period of time, Jimmy Snuka, is taking on Paul Butcher Vachon, certainly on loan from the AWA. Vachon did a few months, I guess, in the WWF, and it was probably one of the biggest falls from grace, because the Vachon brothers were main eventers in the AWA. I don't know if they were in January of 1984, but they were certainly not enhancement workers in the AWA in 1984. They roll into the WWF, or at least Paul does, and they're just jobbers, right? I don't know. Were they paid more? Was it worth the exposure to come in? Am I just a big dumb mark? I mean, I don't know. But we got Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Still has not started wearing the leopard tights, trunks. He's still got the solid black trunks on. Several months following the death of his lady, he is still here and free and wrestling Paul Butcher Vachon. All right, interesting match here between Jimmy Snuka and Paul Butcher Vachon. I had just said that Vachon was just enhancement worker. Well, I guess here's the deal that they made with him. He got to look great in this match. It was all Butcher Vachon throughout the entire match. Vachon had all the offense on Snuka, punches, kicks, eye rakes, things like that. In fact, the dreaded back rake, which Jimmy Snuka sold the heck out of, Butcher just kept raking those nails down the back, and Snuka was acting like he'd gotten shot in the back. The only offense for Jimmy Snuka is a few punches out of the corner, followed by a headbutt, followed by a diving headbutt for the pin. We don't even get the Superfly splash here. We get the flying headbutt. But that's all the offense that Snuka got was, and that's hard to believe, even as a kid, that Butcher Vachon is dominating, and then Jimmy Snuka hits a headbutt, knocks Vachon out cold, and gets him with the flying leap. Still kind of, who designed that match? I didn't really like that one, but anyway, Vachon looks great, but gets beat. Jimmy Snuka, of course, your winner, and we're moving on. All right, here's our first look at Victory Corner. This segment was either cut out of the copy that I had in the January 7th episode, or it was skipped, but this is Victory Corner. And as you can see, the set is very similar to the Piper's Pit set. You've got the same table that Piper used. You got the same carpet. You got the same backdrop with just some Roddy Piper posters added to it, and a Roddy Piper Scottish crest there. So I don't think they did much. This might be the second to last or third to last episode of Victory Corner. It might be the last. This is Rick DeBoard. He's an editor-in-chief or whatever of Victory Sports Magazine, or Victory Magazine, which is WWF Magazine. And he's interviewing Dr. D. David Schultz, which usually is pretty aggressive. Dr. D. David Schultz, if you remember, is not a very easy interview. But here, Dr. D is just talking about his adventures in the WWF and who he looks forward to smashing and defeating. He even does mention the Iron Sheik going after that world title. Obviously, a short-lived desire. But that's what Victory Corner looked like. It was just it was Rogers Corner, same set for the most part. They replaced Rogers Corner with Victory Corner for about a month, and then Piper's Pit comes in, and the rest is history. So that's Victory Corner. Still not a great segment. I don't know why they brought in the editor of the magazine to host a segment, but he's gone soon. Roddy Piper's coming. All right, guys. Next up, and I pause it here on these enhancement guys. Wow, why does the camera do that? Whenever I turn it on, it goes dark for a little while. That's weird. Sorry that you guys have to. I can see it, so I know you guys are seeing it. Anyway, Hercules Vasquez making his first appearance in the WWF, and you would think Hercules Vasquez, it's got to be some kind of mid. No, this is your enhancement guy. I paused it on him because I don't think you've ever seen Hercules Vasquez before. His opponent, ladies and gentlemen, and let's try a little something here. I don't know if this is going to work. If this gets pulled, then I'll have to do the video over. But let me see here. I got to turn it all the way down. This is risky, guys, because his opponent is led towards the ring by Roddy Piper. We have our first look at Paul Orndorf, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, now I'm scared. Okay, I got to pause it now. I got to pause it just in case. You never know. I don't know if that clip is going to get me pulled, demonetized. I don't know. But Paul Orndorf is the second wrestler that Roddy Piper is managing. And somebody said on a previous video that maybe it was because Piper was working off the ear injury from the dog collar match in 1983 with Greg Valentine. That could certainly be the case. Now the camera's lighting up. It's weird. Oh, you guys don't look at it. So that's strange. But anyway, Paul Orndorf and Dr. D. David Schultz are being seconded in early '84 by Roddy Piper before Piper finally gets in the ring. But here we go. Paul Orndorf versus Hercules Vasquez. All right, we've got Paul Orndorf wrapping things up here with the dreaded pile driver. I assume this is going to get the 1-2-3 over Hercules Vasquez. Very, well, so there was a lot of stalling, a lot of comedic stalling between Piper and Orndorf in the beginning of the match. Probably like 5 solid minutes of stalling. First, they're outside the ring. They're messing with the fans. We've got the dreaded poster tearage uppage, which I was like always terrified me as a kid. You know, the kid is holding up I think it was a Jimmy Snuka poster, and Paul Orndorf grabs it and rips it up, and I was like, oh, that's horrible. That always freaked me out as a kid. And then, you know, Orndorf's trying to get in the ring, but, you know, Orndorf, this is when he starts doing the, you know, get him back, ref, get him back, you know, that classic Paul Orndorf. And then he's getting in the ring, and he's about to take off his robe. No, he puts it back on, and Roddy Piper's telling the crowd to shut up. And we get our first chance of Paula here. And I don't know if that was something that the crowd just made up, or if Paul Orndorf somehow told them not to call him Paula. But it's the first time McMahon acknowledges it, and he says, what are they calling him? Paula instead of Paul? And then, of course, Paula goes on from there to become, you know, this horrible insult to Paul Orndorf. You know, no offense from Vasquez. Not the best selling from Vasquez at all. Paul Orndorf sends him into the ropes and hits him in the belly. And if you're going to get hit in the belly, you expect to kind of sell the belly. Well, Vasquez falls flat on his back after a belly punch, and you're like, oh, what's that? Orndorf with those very hard elbows. Orndorf just nails the point of the elbow into the, you know, neck and shoulders of everybody, including Vasquez, and does one of my favorite second rope moves. Goes to the second rope and winds up the elbow and drops it down on Vasquez that we get to see all through Orndorf's career. Ends it with the dastardly pile driver, a very unprotected pile driver back in the early 80s. Wow, you know, some of these pile drivers, that guy's head is practically going through the mat. Very, very rough pile drivers back in the early 80s. This one's no exception. Paul Orndorf gets the Duke, and we'll be back with the second half of this card when we return.